got some problems that you wanna solve? Then let's chat. That job getting on your nerves? Then let's chat. Girl, you know I can relate, so let's chat. Cause I'ma tell you what the bottom line is.
I'ma tell you what the bottom line is. I'ma tell you what the bottom line is. I'ma tell you what the bottom.
It's your girl Cece. I'm your hostess with the mostest.
I'ma tell you what the bottom line is.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Cece, and we're back for another episode of The Bottom Line Is. And today's guest is my friend Shardae.
Hello, everybody.
All right, and Shardae, tell us a little bit about what you do.
So my name is Shardae Carter. I've coined the term to call myself the grief relief strategist. I do own my own private practice. I'm a licensed therapist, and I offer support for people that are struggling with navigating life after loss.
For sure. And so you all know I only hang around the best of the best, you know. So.
Well, okay.
But today's episode is called Work-Life Balance. And, you know, that's such a loose term that you hear when you're working. As you all know, I do HR. So HR always, you know, lives and breathes and talks about work-life balance. But our hands are truly tied when it comes to that because we can't really control the workload. We can't really control what a manager puts on the employees to do and how they get that work done. But it's important for us to take accountability for ourselves, our mental health, and make sure that we allow ourselves that space and that time to kind of rejuvenate. Because if we keep digging and digging and digging into the ground, we're not going to be good for anybody. And, you know, that's our families, our job, or what have you. And I get it. You know, we need our jobs to survive and get the things that we need to be able to support our family and ourselves. But again, you have to have that time and find that time to rejuvenate. So we're just going to talk about the value of mental health as well, because mental health has always been a thing, but I feel like it didn't start coming out until COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Before, I feel like when people thought of mental health, they just thought of bipolar, schizophrenia, you know, or other like popular type of issues, but nobody really talks about what actually mental health is and how far it can go. And it's such that negative connotation on if you get help, then, you know, you're crazy. And that's not really it. So like, let's talk about what is mental health.
So mental health to me is, I like to basically look at mental health the same way we look at our physical health. Right. So when we talk about our physical health, we're taking our blood pressure, right? We're doing a scan of we get physicals. We go to the OBGYN, like we're supposed to basically get these yearly examinations to check in with ourselves. Right. Oftentimes those things are looking for certain symptoms. And so oftentimes if you ever gone to the doctors, if you haven't gotten blood work in a long time, they're like, hey, let's get some blood today. Let's go and get some blood work. And all of those things are to kind of just check where you are. And so unfortunately, we don't generally do that with our mental health. We might do that on the physical side, making sure we're checking our weight and all of those things. But on the mental health side, I think we don't necessarily do that enough. And so for me, mental health is basically kind of checking in with yourself, allowing yourself to see, what do I feel right now? Have I been having several periods of sadness? Have I been more emotional? Have I been more angry? Some people are like oftentimes going off on people and they don't even realize it. Yeah. They just oftentimes, especially I've heard on a day-to-day basis with some people in our community, they say this me, right? Just take it or leave it. But sometimes we have to realize, like, why am I acting this way? Right. Instead of I'm just take it or leave it, kind of checking in with yourself. And so mental health is giving yourself an opportunity to check on yourself mentally. What am I feeling? Why am I so tired? Why am I so angry? Why am I so irritated all the time? And oftentimes we don't do that because we might not have a healthy work-life balance, right? Or we don't necessarily always prioritize our mental health as much as we do physically. we all know that we're supposed to get our annuals and all of those things, because those things are kind of like ingrained and they're told to us by several different people. But we may not have come from a family or just around people that talk about mental health and learning how to check in with yourself mentally.
Yeah, and I really, like I said, we need to take away that negative connotation of, of mental health, because it's okay, to get that checkup. We do our physicals, we go to the dentist, we do all these things, but we forget about our brain as a component as well that needs some tending to, so to speak. And it's like, like you mentioned about the emotions, sometimes that can come out at work, the cliche saying, leave your emotions at the door before you come in. But I feel like it takes so much energy to be so negative. And it's like, why do you want to go around being negative all the time? And HR, when people come to my office, I'm just like, you really want to say that, but you're trying to figure out a nice way to say that.
Literally, yes.
But it's like, come on, like, do you really just want to be angry all day? Well, maybe we can find you a spot over there where you could just be angry alone or something. But it's so draining when you can have a better life.
Definitely. And I was just going to say something to kind of piggyback off of that. What I'm also noticing is sometimes people project their feelings onto other people for various reasons, because they haven't done that mental health work. They haven't worked on themselves internally. And so for various reasons, I've worked with lots of Black women who oftentimes say, people always call them mean or say they look mean all the time. And they're the sweetest people in the world. But for various reasons throughout their life, they may have experienced some heartbreaks, just disappointments. And so they've learned to kind of project like this mask so people won't hurt them or people won't bother them, or that they don't get their hopes up high. And so one of the great things about, like, when you work on your mental health is allowing yourself to be vulnerable and be able to like process, like, what am I feeling internally, not just physically, but emotionally. What am I feeling? Because oftentimes we don't even realize that disappointment that we might have experienced when we were 5 years old is still kind of haunting us at 25 years old. And if we don't do the work on our mental health, we can just continue on operating in a space where we're saying, this is just who I am, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Right. You don't settle in that aspect. And, the other cliche thing is, you're at work more than you are at home. I mean, traditionally, the majority of us work, 8 plus sometimes hours during the day. And then you're in that routine. You work, then you come home. If you have kids, you're taking care of the kids, or you're running errands, and 2 days is just not enough, right? To get anything else. I mean, I think we all experience that. But, most people say, oh, well, about rejuvenating yourself is self-care. And we think of self-care as just like going to beautify ourselves out, or, for guys going to get their shape ups, hanging out with the fellas, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we do need that. But again, taking it back to, we still need to be able to take care of our mind and doing certain things to so our mind can relax.
Definitely is needed. Absolutely. And I think I spoke on this before, is mental health is not always about the bubble baths, the pampering, all the things. Now, I love a vacation. I love being by the beach. Like, listen, okay? Listen. But when you are like a mom, a business owner, a wife, doing all the things, going on a vacation might be last on the list. Okay? And it doesn't mean that I have to hold on hope and wait for this vacation for me to finally take care of myself. So it's so important to find creative ways to start working on taking care of yourself and setting some time aside for self-care. And sometimes people don't realize, but self-care can actually be just saying no to things.
Yes.
Learning how to set and prioritize yourself and realize and say, when you are burnt out, realizing that someone else can do it, or it can wait, right? Sometimes we as women, we can wear this cape of, I got to do all, be all for everybody. And it can feel that way. Like, don't get me wrong, because nobody can do it like us. But the problem is sometimes nobody can do it like us because we haven't even taught anybody to do it like us.
That's true. We don't have the patience to, you know, I'm guilty. I'm not even going to say, oh, yeah, I'm guilty. Yeah.
Me too. I mean, once you find your own rhythm, you kind of like, I already know how to do it. I don't got time to be telling nobody else. But the problem is with that, then it starts to create resentment towards other people because nobody's doing anything. You're doing all the things. And so I think a part of self-care is also realizing setting healthy expectations for yourself, letting people know if you need some help, delegating some responsibilities, realizing if I delegate this responsibility, while it might not look exactly the same as I would do it, right? But this frees me up some time where I can actually have some peace and quiet for myself, even if it's 5 minutes. I worked with a client who she was working off all the time nonstop, and she had a newborn baby and she had a husband, and she was struggling with just the day-to-day, like everything. And I gave her one recommendation, which was, how about you let your husband give your baby a bath at night? I know you like to clean the bottles, I know you like to get the baby bag, but how about you just allow him to do the bath at night? And she's like, well, he's not going to do it like me because I sing her a song and I do this and I do that. And I was like, those things are great, right? But think about how that might make you feel with that's one less thing you have to worry about at night. And she did it. And she was so proud of herself because she allowed herself to take one thing off her list to do, and it was one less thing that she had to worry about, and the baby was clean, and it made her feel good because this was something that her husband started to look forward to, and the baby and her husband started to bond, right? And they were able to build their own connection. So it's so important, like, again, sometimes that you allow yourself to know, yes, nobody can do it like me, but it doesn't mean it's not getting done.
No, for sure. Yeah. And, you know, that's the part. Yeah. Like you said, oh, yeah, can't nobody do it like me? Well, allow them that grace and space to attempt, you know, as well. And again, going back to like some people, we're just so quick as human beings to go to different vices to kind of get through our stress and things like that. And stress is it's very popular, and it can do a lot of damage, right?
Definitely.
But once you're clear off of those vices, you know, you can go take a trip to get away or go have a drink. But you do realize it's going to still be there if you don't take care of your mental health and try to learn how to process through these situations. And it's not a quick fix, and it's not something that happens overnight, but you have to start small and know that eventually you'll get there. You're not going to be perfect. You know, these things that come into our lives are here to make us stronger and better people. And so we can help others and do different things, right? So, yeah. So, you know, it's going back to specifically in regards to work-life balance. Me as HR, I always tell people if they, you know, come into my office and they're having a lot of stressors in their life, to contact EAP. So that's the Employee Assistance Program. And with that program, you can get free counseling sessions usually to just kind of set the stage, you know, of what you have going on, and then you get recommendations. And it's such a negative connotation on that too, because then people feel like, oh, well, employers are going to know who, you know, that I called and this and that. We don't know. All we get is the numbers. Oh, you know, 2 people called in the month of June or whatever the case is. We're more concerned that you're getting help. You know, and learning how to deal with those issues.
And speaking on it from a clinician standpoint, we as clinicians, we are not sharing any of that information with your employers. Your employers will not know if you came to your appointment. They will not know how many times until we send a bill. They're worried about the bill, but we're not giving them any of your personal information. And I know oftentimes that's a worry for a lot of people, and they're very skeptical. I've heard people, they're like, I'd rather just do it on my own time and not do it under EAP. But believe it or not, EAP actually saves you money.
It does.
You don't have to worry about your co-pays. You don't have to worry about your deductibles or anything like that, because it all gets covered under your employer.
Mm-hmm.
So you would basically just have your employer, you talk to someone and decide how many sessions they would cover. And then actually, if you work with a clinician that accepts EAP, if you decide, okay, my employer is giving me 10 sessions, you work with your clinician, they will see you for those 10 sessions. And if you feel like you need further assistance, you and that clinician can work out if that person wants to just use their insurance and to continue on seeing that clinician, or how you want to work it out. But you can still see your therapist even after the sessions are over under EAP, because sometimes people do get that a little bit confused, like, oh, I'm only going to be able to see this person for 5 times. Well, that's not true. It's only maybe 5 sessions that's covered under EAP. Mm-hmm. However, it's actually your choice if you want to continue on seeing that clinician, but you would just have to use your own insurance at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like, when people are going through sessions and they feel like, oh, well, now I know how to manage that issue. What do you say to clients like that? Do you say, well, it's a good idea to continue, with that for your mental health being, or do you say, bye, all right, thank you so much, call me back when you have an issue? I mean, but this is what people are thinking, right?
Sure.
They're looking again for those quick fixes. So
yeah, no, that actually is a thing, honestly. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is some people that do that. They do say, okay, all right, I think I'm good now. And generally speaking, I've had clients who will decide to discharge, and it is not my recommendation. But of course, everyone has their own, things going on. So I never try to force anyone to stay in therapy. But what I can say is I always try to keep that open door and let them know if things get tough, they can reach back out to me. We can kind of set up an appointment and kind of go from there. But I do try to give my recommendations. If I know that a person is coming up on maybe their last 1 or 2 EAP sessions, we'll try to create a plan around that time. So we'll try to discuss, okay, do you feel like you want to start thinking about whether or not you want to continue working with me? Or if they start saying, well, no, I think I'm a discharge, well, we'll talk about some tools that they can actually use and apply moving forward. Because again, I want a person to be successful. So I'm not going to just say all right, your EAP sessions are up, so peace out. No, but if I know that a person, especially if someone's struggling financially and they know that they can't afford the deductible or the copay, then we definitely will start talking about tools that they can actually utilize and keep practicing moving forward even after discharge.
No, for sure. And I do want to highlight when we close on those tools. And, again, people just fail to realize when you're working, you're still always thinking about what's going on at home, how the kids are doing in school, all of these different things, all these stressors, I mean, how do you deal with that and trying to focus on work? Because I feel like I know I have a lot of stress in my life. And sometimes that can take over where I don't feel like I'm productive. And I've had people go on PIPs, before at work. So, and a PIP is a performance improvement plan, because they're not focused anymore at work. I mean, what do you say about that?
So people that are generally not focused, generally if as maybe a clinician, I'll kind of ask them what they think first, just because I try to kind of operate from a non-judgmental space. And so if a person is coming to session and they're saying well, my boss said this about me, and generally they're going to tell me what's really going on. Right. That the
as
things
opposed
that
to HR sometimes.
Right. As opposed to what's really actually taking place. Generally, people will tell their clinician, because I'm not connected to your job. Right. And we have to be honest. People's job, the way in which you earn your living, that is, that's going to take precedence over anything, because that's how you pay your bills and how you live and operate and all of those things. And so as a clinician, if I hear someone saying that they're getting PAPs, bad PAPs, or that they are experiencing challenges at work, we'll talk about ways that they can start to try to advocate for themselves at work, ways in which they can start communicating with maybe the boss, so that they're not just operating in this space of lax where they're like all discombobulated at work and now their performance is not, up to par. But I'll talk to them about ways that we can like start communicating, because that's generally the barrier, is they're not communicating what's really going on. Right. They're just maybe spaced out. Now, some people, they do have managers who may not be necessarily as supportive. And that is also a thing that I've worked with also people who experience racial, discrimination, things like that at work, all different kinds of like work challenges. And so what we try to do, I handle each person like differently, depending on their situation. But I generally will try to get a person to first, one, acknowledge what's really going on. Not just like, oh, I'm just this poor worker or I'm not able to do it, but let's talk about like why you're not able to show up. Like maybe you need some extra time, maybe you need to go through a training again, maybe you need to also work on like organization, because sometimes people can be like backed up and then it causes them to be backed up in all the projects. Like, so it just kind of depends. When we talk about tools, we'll talk about like what will be best beneficial and suitable for that person.
Okay. Well, let's give them just a few quick tips on what they can do to, navigate through that space when there's a lot going on at work. Because again, keeping that mental health a priority, just like we do other parts of our body. So mind, body, and soul, mind, body, and spirit, whatever, you want to use. So what would you say?
One of the ones that I would definitely try to recommend is allowing a person to have some type of outlet. That's not connected to work, that's not connected to family, that's not connected to any type of like responsibility other than just some self-fulfillment, right? So finding something that you actually enjoy, even if you really only do it once a week, but some type of outlet where you actually are allowing yourself to just be. And what that can look like for everybody depends on like your availability. So if you have an hour where you can get up an hour before you got to get up for work, or maybe an hour before you got to go to bed, or some people's theirs might be only 5 minutes. But finding some type of time where you can just be. For some people, what's beneficial is just doing a brain dump. At the end of the day, just pouring out everything that kind of popped up for you. That's beneficial for some of my clients that struggle with insomnia or anxiety. And so I think that just kind of allowing yourself to pour out all of the things that may have been bothering you that day, so that you're not going to bed heavy. So that's also another tool. Brain dump, journaling, also doing some mindfulness. I love mindfulness. I love yoga. I love stretching. Some people working out is also helpful. One thing that I just started doing, and I got to get more consistent with it, is hula hooping.
Oh.
Yes. I bought myself a weighted hula hoop, which was so much fun. And that has been an outlet for me because I have to concentrate on keeping this thing up on my hip. And I have a weighted one, so it's not easy until you really get like your rhythm and you get it going. Then it is very relaxing. But I think that also is an outlet, just moving your body. Some type of way of moving your body. What I try to encourage people and let people know is oftentimes stress is something that we hold on to. So you want to find ways to be able to release what it is that you're holding on to.
Yeah, because I know stress, they always say stress can kill. That's the phrase. And we don't realize how our body manifests that stress, because we'll say, oh yeah, I'm not stressed out. I'm not this, I'm not that. But your body is on a whole nother tangent.
Right?
Yes.
Literally.
And I'll say too, to add to the tips, that work can sometimes be overwhelming. And I know one thing that helps me is, I can't do everything.
Yep.
Right. I'm only one person for that time that I am at work. And for me, at my level, it helps to kind of just at the start of my day write a post-it of, maybe 3 or 4 things that I hope to accomplish, because if I think about all of the things that I have to accomplish, even in my personal life, I get overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
I'm like, oh, I can't do this. You know,
Absolutely.
I'm like, I can't do this. And then I just get flushed, and then I'm not productive at all.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I realized a long time ago that I couldn't, you know, operate like that. So that way, at the end of the workday, if I've accomplished at least a majority of those things, it feels so good to just ball up that Post-it and throw it away.
Yes.
And feel like, oh, I did that. Like, I did that. I can walk away saying, yeah, I accomplished something today. You know what I mean?
Definitely. I can agree with that. And that kind of reminds me of one of my favorite ways to kind of manage some of my stress and anxiety is gratitude. I love practicing gratitude, especially when I'm feeling really anxious. Because most of the time when I'm, anxious about something, it could be like a speaking engagement. It could be like a new deal that's coming up for my business. Something that I really, really want to do is sometimes your inner critic can start to tell you about some negative things that could happen. And so I just try to ground myself in gratitude. Gratitude is, if anyone doesn't know, but it's basically just speaking about things that you're grateful for. So it can be very small, minuscule things that we don't even really pay attention to. Sometimes I'll just say, I'm grateful for just this light. I'm grateful to be able to be in this moment. I'm grateful for just having a friend. I'm grateful for my health and my strength, my right state of mind. All of the things that we sometimes can take for granted. We just get up and we're going. Because oftentimes when you are very stressed, if things are not going well at work, we can start to beat ourselves up and start to speak negatively towards ourselves. But when you ground yourself in gratitude, it allows you to see things that are actually positively that's going on around you as well. So that's one of my favorite things to do when I start to feel maybe a little overwhelmed or anxious about things, is just finding maybe 3 or 4 things that I'm feeling grateful for.
Yeah, and that's like affirmations.
Yep.
Yeah. And, I know some people, they think to get around this is just to job hop. But you can't keep doing that forever, because eventually nobody's going to hire you if you're at, the jobs for a short amount of time, because those issues, if you don't deal with the issues that are manifesting, they're going to just keep coming up. They're going to keep knocking you until you deal with them, head on. So, with that, we'll end with the bottom line is there's a lot of tools out there and resources. You just have to make yourself, available and want to use them. So you can start with, if you're working and you're, dealing with different things at work, start with the EAP program, because outside of therapists, they do assist you with other things, far as from a financial perspective as well. So there's a lot of resources there. Reach out to a friend if it's too much, and, solicit that friend to try to help you. There's a lot of different things, but don't get caught up into that stigma of, oh, I don't think I want to see a therapist, or I don't need any help, because that's not going to do anything for you. We're all about trying to push you forward and towards that positive, direction. So just, take those things down. And, as Shardae mentioned about gratitude, feel free to, like, comment, and subscribe, and share some of the things in the comments that you are grateful for. Share your affirmations. I know I have friends that write them on Post-its and put them on their mirrors or put them in their car, just anywhere that you feel is a safe space for you to do that, because it is very important. You don't think it is, but as you kind of start doing those tasks, you will realize that the change that will come upon that. So, Shardae, how can they reach you if they want to find out more?
Social media handles are actually under my business name, which is Day-to-Day Counseling, but you can look me up on Instagram, DAE, the number 2, DAE Counsel. So Day to Day Counsel. On Facebook, it's the same, Day to Day Counseling. And I also have a website, which is daytodaycounseling.com.
So we hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. And